Chauvin. I've been watching the transfer. Oh, man.
And we are live on YouTube. So, hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Operation Grow Show, episode 12, season 5. This will be the genetic drift one, which is a very timely topic. And without further ado, let's just dive straight in with a few. How's everybody doing quickly? Raptor, how you doing, sir? How you keeping?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much, Pete. Very much looking forward to the presentation. All the presentations so far have been great. So, yeah, very informative, and hopefully everyone will be able to learn as much as I have this last couple of weeks. And yeah, again, if you have any questions, just make sure to tag Pete or I or even Cascadian, and we'll just be sifting through all the questions. And Cascadian will go on with his presentation, and if he feels he needs to stop, he'll do so and address anything. But yeah, basically it'll probably just be all covered at the end. So yeah, without further ado, hope everyone's having a good day or evening. Yeah, Raptor Grow. Hope everyone's doing good.
Yeah, excellent. And oh, my message did not go through. I just saw that. Da, da, da. Duckweed.
What up?
Sorry. My brain just
Hey,
went
cheers, everybody.
skip the beat.
Looking forward to this.
Oh, that sweet
interesting one.
serenading voice. Yes, yes. Glad to have you back, Doc.
Right. I'm still a little bit under the weather, but actually that's kind of the reason I'm able to be here today and not doing what I usually do on a Saturday. But yeah, definitely looking forward to it, and just everyone who's just rolling in the chat. Yeah, I harvested that Otto Flower local sativa cross from last season and been smoking on that since I've been under the weather. Yeah. One has a sort of like ripe almost that's kind of the reason I'm able to get some echo from your lefty. Yeah. It's like ripe, almost fermented fruit, kind of gassy kind of smell with a kind of tennis ball back end.
Tennis ball back end.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Proper ending to that sentence.
We don't want to know what goes on in your Saturday night.
It involves back ends and tennis balls, but anyway.
I leave it up to the imagination.
That's what scares me.
Oh, dang it. Yeah.
Hey, GMF, how you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm with y'all. It's a great day. I'm done dog sitting. I was off dog sitting for a week, so I'm finally back. Lost 4 little seedlings because I popped them unsurreptitiously during that time. I didn't think about my planning or my timing, so that'll be a good lesson to you. Don't start seedlings when you got to go do stuff.
Yeah.
I lost a couple that way. No big deal. Shit happens. But no, just happy to be back hanging out with y'all, man. To be honest, that's about it. Just privilege that I get to be here, hanging out with y'all, hanging out with the good people in chat. So yeah, I'm just lucky to be here, y'all.
Excellent. Good. And Lefty, how things going, bud?
Oh, we're here, man. We're here.
We're here.
I got into the special kids club, right?
Yay.
Hey, I'm like, what the fuck? We don't have a show this week, or what's going on?
I don't know. And back at the normal time. Hopefully that didn't mess with anybody too much, but we are back on the usual time. So without further ado then, and on to today's topic, which is going to be about genetic drift. Introduce Cascadian. How you doing, sir?
Thanks for having me, man. You definitely got me with the time zone shift. I wasn't keeping up with your country's personal problems, so I was a little sorry to anybody misguided and thought we were at 2 today, but we're at 1 today, so here we are. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here. Ready to rock out another little presentation and answer some questions and make mud water of everybody's minds. So This will be a good time.
That's a very
actually-
timely conversation because it's actually just been mentioned on a couple of shows over the last week at least, and I think it is an area that is misunderstood, and particularly like in the use of the phrase. I mean, that's putting it in the right context is all important when it comes to this one.
Yeah, it's as you highlighted before the show started. I hadn't even thought of that, but it is often misused in context. It's just wholly applied inappropriately. The whole basis is off. So hopefully today we can clear the air a little bit on what genetic drift is and how to use the terms in a sentence properly.
Excellent.
So let's get to it here. We've actually talked about genetic drift. Come on, man. Hang on. Does that work?
No.
Hang on. Right here. Sorry, I'm new. No.
If you go into the advanced, yeah, there we go.
Okay, so genetic drift, guys. We've talked about this without knowing we were talking about this. So what is genetic drift? Genetic drift, if you remember previous conversations, I've talked about oscillating around the allelic frequency. Every generation will be slightly above or below that actual allelic frequency that it's oscillating around. The amount that it oscillates or varies from what you would call the allelic frequency of a Hardy-Weinberg population, that amount of oscillation is the genetic drift. So genetic drift is the change in allelic frequency from generation to generation, and it's more pronounced in a small population. So with a larger population, this still occurs. It just takes more time, but this concept still applies to every population that is a real population. So we can talk theory. Hardy-Weinberg theorem is a population that does not exist in nature. It's the perfect situation, but this applies to every real population you come across, whether it's an animal, a plant, doesn't matter. This occurs. So this is stimulated by chance and randomness. I have this graph here. It'll follow us a little bit, but for a second, let's step back to the previous Hardy-Weinberg presentation to look at the assumptions of the Hardy-Weinberg theorem. It has these 5 assumptions. Genetic drift breaks the last 2. So the population size is limited. Every population in the world has a limited number of individuals, and mating is no longer random. There is a chance involved. So the chance here is usually described as non-adaptive. It's not a selection pressure, therefore natural selection is not broken. This is not a bird came down and ate all the red frogs and left the green frogs, and now there's only green frogs. This is one green frog decided to have 2,000 babies and the red frogs only had 20, just because the green frog happened to get around. It's that kind of a randomness that we're talking about. It's not environmental pressure. It's not anything that you think of that causes adaptation. This is randomness and chance, which if you just try to wrap your head around randomness, you'll find lots of really interesting conversations about how to understand randomness from a math perspective. There's a lot of math when it comes to true randomness. I'm not going to get into all of that, but this is true randomness. This is just, she just happened to have a bunch of babies, and this one just happened to break its leg, and this one just, it's not like the bird came and ate them all like I was describing a minute ago. So this is breaking the last 2 laws of the Hardy-Weinberg theorem. And the the different lines on this graph here illustrate just different examples of what happens when there's different pressures in that random chance. They can be summed up as a pressure, even though it's not a natural selection pressure. It still ends up being a pressure on the population. I hope that makes sense. There's a distinction there.
Mhm.
So as I was saying, this is exaggerated by a finite population. The smaller the population, the less alleles you have, the more percentage, the larger percentage each allele represents of the total 100%. So the loss of any particular allele represents the loss of a larger percentage of diversity when there's a smaller number of individuals in the population. A larger population, 1,000 individuals, results in this case, I was just using 2 alleles. Sometimes there's more than 2 alleles. Would result in 2,000 alleles. You lose 1 member, you're at 1,998. It's a fraction of a percent. You lose 1 individual out of 10, you're down 20%. That same individual. So populations are highly influenced. So when you think about a 10 seed pack of seeds, well, now you have 10 and say 7 popped, you're down 3. And then say you select down further, you're losing this diversity as that occurs. So that's just to give you a quick example of how this applies to what you actually care about. That's how you can see the impact of this. So the yellow line would represent something that's maintaining enough diversity to keep all of the alleles. The population is large enough that you're not losing important alleles to cause others to become fixed. So it's the ideal situation. The yellow is just kind of doing its thing, oscillating around the mean, the average. If you were to expand this timeline out, you would still see that yellow drift one way or another from the mean, but it's doing it at a slower pace because the population is more properly regulated. The red and the blue line are examples of randomness that just cause either the dominant capital A to become fixed or the recessive capital B to become fixed. It can go either way because this is random chance, not selection pressure. Selection pressure would usually, the pressure would prefer a specific outcome, so the line would go one way and not the other. But randomness, it has the chance to go both directions. And you learn through observation which way it's going. So the end result is that you end up with a population that lost genetic diversity. The issue being that it has a lesser ability to adapt to changes in the future. So it might still have great health now, it might still perform amazingly, but if the environment changes too much, it might not be able to adapt to those changes and completely disappear. The other issue is that it can cause distinction amongst populations. It can lead to an extreme case could lead to speciation. There we go, speciation. 2 different species that can no longer then interbreed because they have drifted so far apart that they no longer mix properly.
I mean, an example of that precisely that is the Lakota chili and the Lakota pepper and chilies. They started off the same, but you cannot cross them with each other. They just won't do it.
Yeah, but they originate from the same chili. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then the last issue, which is really the biggie when it comes to this, is because it's randomness and it's not selection pressure, you can fix a non-advantageous allele. You can end up with, if you go Google like or whatever search engine you want to use, genetic drift, like meme or picture, you'll see some where like one will be a smart frog and another one's a really derpy frog, and the one is natural selection, the smart frog, and the derpy frog is genetic drift, because you don't, it can go anywhere. You can end up with a horrible outcome that becomes fixed because of random chance. And I think that's the end of her there. Yeah. So she's short and sweet. She's not oftenly applied properly, but that's genetic drift in a nutshell.
So genetic drift is something that
I have this clone and I've had it for a long place.
Whoa, hang on. I was going to say,
Sorry.
go ahead, GMF, go for it, buddy.
Oh no, I was just asking, so what is the incorrect application of this term genetic drift that everyone's doing? Is it the idea that, oh, I'm holding this clone and it's somehow losing or changing? Like, what is the misapplication that people are doing?
You or me, Pete? I don't care.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry. Yeah,
you can go for it.
So they're the most common misused way of applying the term genetic drift that I have seen is in holding this particular plant, this specimen, and that specimen changing over time. It not growing the same as it did 5 years ago, even though it's just a cutting of a cutting of a cutting of a cutting. That's the most frequent misuse of genetic drift that I have seen.
Also, too, I've adding on to that is people misconstrue a sick plant that they've been cloning over and over again from, that's not performing like it used to that they're blaming that on genetic drift, that it's not performing the same. They're like, oh, I've cloned this so many times, it must be because I've cloned it so many times. It's like, no, it's because you did a piss poor job at keeping it running. That's what I hear the most. So hopefully that clears it up.
Yeah, so you could say that genetic drift applies only at the population level. Genetic drift does not apply at an individual level. It occurs in a population. You don't get it occurring in the individual. So a single plant that you continue using, you would not see, and that's because there's no cross. You need to have breeding. You need to have sexual reproduction, not asexual reproduction, to be able to have genetic drift. It needs to be that swapping of genetic material to get the occasional hiccup and that causes that to happen. A mutation somewhere that kicks in or whatever that occurs.
What I think people are meaning when they say genetic drift in a particular specimen, I think they're referring to more of a concept of epigenetic drift than genetic drift. And epigenetic drift is quickly summarized as the DNA adaptation within an individual that causes them to swing between their biological age and their chronological age. Their age on the timeline as time exists, the years they've been on the planet, versus the assumed wear and tear that they've put on their body. Some people are 30 and look 50. Some people are 50 and look 30. That's what I'm trying to. Well, that's biological.
If it fell in your garden, bro, plant it.
That's and are we talking about the fraying of telomeres really on a genetic level?
Right.
That quote unquote biological age is the fraying of telomeres on the end of the genetic chains that are actually using your body's using to replicate cells on a daily basis.
Right.
So,
yeah. And you're
And
and the American one,
I mean, you hit
Oh,
an
yeah,
interesting thing
yeah,
with the
yeah. Go ahead,
telomeres
bud.
because, oddly enough, in cannabis, those are incredibly long. The chance of you hitting the end of the lifespan is particularly difficult. I mean, you'd have to have it going probably longer than you're gonna be around for to clip it that much. You know, it is an interesting plant on that specific note piece there in terms of you can keep it. That's why you can keep going for decades and decades, and it doesn't change. It's as good as when it started. Yeah, and I mean, I think the other one that's interesting, sorry to cut you off there, but the other one I find interesting sometimes is, oh, my friend's growing the same cut, but it's completely different. It's like, yeah, because the environment isn't the same. So that's the other bit that also has to be taken into consideration. You know, oh, it doesn't grow the same as it did 5 years ago. Yeah, but 5 years ago you were growing under HPS, and now you're growing under LED. So it has changed in terms of its environment's changed, so it's expressing itself differently.
Right, epigenetically, that's epigenetic a change right there. Yeah, and then seasonally, I notice my things are different in the spring than they are in the fall. They're different in the summer than they are in the winter due to just the heat and temperature or humidity. Sorry. Yeah, so I think that's how they're meaning epigenetics, and they don't put the epi on front, and they get, I don't know if it's lazy or just uninformed, or they just think they're the same thing, or shorthanded it, auto-corrected, who knows. But I think they're really meaning epigenetic drift when they're saying genetic drift in that sort of a sense, because that is what epigenetic drift is. And epigenetic drift is totally fascinating. And it you know, we see it in people. We see it just we don't even mean to. We see it. So it's fascinating to understand how that would happen in a plant.
I mean, there's always a chance of spontaneous mutation. I mean, it's a biological thing. So things can mutate, and you could take a cut from the piece that's mutated, and over a very long period of time, you might result in something that winds up different, but it is a biological thing. But that's mutation. I mean, it's there's always the risk of that happening. And it's not even reproductive mutation. I mean, that's if you exposed it to excessive UVC, for instance, and messed with it somehow, some other really strong external influence.
Gamma rays, X-rays, there's all kinds of.
The American one dropped a question in chat, and GR420 community videos answered it perfectly. No, I'm kidding.
Know your colors, bro.
Yeah, the American one asked if one breeds the red line and the blue line, will they create offspring closer to the yellow line? Or will there only be a blue or red line with the drift? So what he's asking here, if we pull this back up. It doesn't take me a day and a half here. Yep. Pull this back up here. So he's asking about the blue and the red line. I'm assuming when they're out here on the ends here, when we've got quite a bit of variation. So we're talking about something that is dominantly homozygous and something recessively homozygous. And just off the top of my head, without actually drawing out the Punnett square, I do think you would end up with a large majority of them expressing around the yellow line, because you're going to end up with dominant recessive combinations on 2 of the 4 boxes. And then, no, you're going to end up with it in all 4 boxes, right?
Well, I don't know. I mean, again, it depends on what the drift is. I mean, if you've dropped alleles out of the equation, if you did it on the bigger scale, rather than like saying it's only 4 alleles or 10, if you did it on like, okay, there's 100, and then you say, I've dropped 2 here and I've dropped 2 over there, you might not have dropped the same two, or you might have both dropped the same two and then dropped other combinations of others. I don't think it's necessarily you'll get close back to the yellow. There's potential of it happening, but even this, I think for the sake of presentation, is kind of, it's been deliberately done to be, and excuse me if I'm wrong, but oversimplified, because really what you'll get is you'll get hundreds of little strands going off as each one is doing something ever so slightly different. And the longer you go, the further away those strands will get. I mean, that's why we've got all these different varieties of chili peppers that come from one original chili pepper, all the different varieties of cannabis that start off from one original source of it.
Right. Just considering one allele, though, in a simplified example here, it does look like he's right. You do end up with capital A, B,
all
which
over, yeah.
is going to express dominant, but you're going to have the recessive in there. So when you take the next
Across.
generation and you take the next generation, you end up with AA, AB, and then you end up with BB, and this is capital AB. So you end up with dominant, recessive, heteros, and you're kind of right back to that mixed population, quote unquote, that you started with, but not. You're still not, but it does resemble it. I see where you're going, Tao, and
That's such an
I hope-
intense tic-tac-toe game.
Yeah, right. I might need to
You
roll
almost
one
got
up
him.
just for that.
yeah,
Yeah, and I
hope
would
that
say,
helps.
I just think in the actual practice, though, what you'll find is it doesn't do that. It's because the number you're playing with is just so much bigger.
Right, and like you said, you might be losing different alleles and then recombine, and they're not even missing the same alleles to begin with. You might end up with then a offspring that's missing all four alleles, so you can compound the problem.
I mean, it would be interesting to see it in like a large field grow where you could let things grow, pollinate around themselves, just let seeds fall where they fall and watch the next generation keep growing in that same area. And when you start to see, like within the big overall population, you start to see a pocket of it forming, but of course, everything on the inside of the pocket is most likely to pollinate itself again, and it'll be around the edges where it's still like a little blurry. But as that circle gets bigger and bigger over time, potentially, I mean, that's what you would see, these different expressions coming out over in a big population. All right, who's got 100 acres we can play with?
Portugal.
Seed bomb Tenerife. Whee.
Hey. Legal.
I don't think I missed any other questions so far. I'm totally down to answer some more.
No, I don't think there's been.
And GMF on point. Congratulations, New York and New Mexico. Congratulations, guys.
Virginia, you're next. We got our eyes on you.
So at what point, on that topic, just out of interest, at what point do they go, look, more than 50% of the states, for example, have gone, rec legal?
48 of them got to go, and 30 of them got to go bang down the door. Like, they're not gonna. They're not gonna.
To quote GMF, the dinosaurs got a dinosaur. You heard it from the raptor. They gotta do what they gotta do. Their time has come.
Yeah.
Well,
Hey,
the good news is you're probably going to get a federal descheduling soon, which will open up the banking system, because I think that's really what people who even aren't into weed really want. Is literally they want access to the money making potential. They want access to the banking systems, and even people who aren't into the community, they think that's still a worthwhile thing, and that's really going to be our path in. So the whole idea potentially is if we can federally decrim, that gives people access to things like all the other benefits that come with being a legit business, from finance to medical care to all the kind of things that we put along with jobs. So I don't know. It's once that's federally descheduled, I think the entire nation's going to have a much different attitude, but you're still going to have places like, Mississippi, Alabama that are going to fight tooth and nail. But as individual states, it'll be their right to fight that way and to act that way, and to have some towns having home rule where they don't allow it into our town, not in our town. But, you know, the nice part is federally, everyone should be able to get access to things like banking. So that's a big deal with federal descheduling.
Yeah.
Well,
That
look
brings a
how
whole lot
much
of interesting
profit they
things.
were able to do without the banks. They're able to have this huge profit margin without fucking any help. So
And they got to
that
walk
in
around
its
with
own,
giant stacks of cash. They got to pay
Yep.
security. I mean, it'll save money if we don't have to do that stuff anymore, and people can actually just use their credit card to make a purchase.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I mean it's not just that; it's all the ancillary jobs that it creates. It can now all it makes that whole thing easier. And given what's been going on and the mass need for reemployment and new jobs to be created, it's an interesting one where you have an industry that is semi-established but not nationally established, and you could then end up with quite a good job creation scheme at the end of it all. But on the breeding side, project side of things, how's everybody's grows coming along? How are things going? Lefty, how did your mass pollination run go, dude? I'm assuming it was successful.
Yeah, it was a success. I learned my lesson. I knew it was gonna fucking happen, but having that male is in a different tent, but it's kind of in the same room. But yeah, all my
Oh, whoops.
Hey, dude, you could start a seed company.
yeah,
Pollinate from the other side of the house.
a seed company after this run. But yeah, anything you want by a rise, I fucking got it.
Buy a ride.
Oh shit! Is that the next chem dog? It's in every fucking thing.
But no,
Sound like me.
it turned out really good. Yeah, it took really well. It was some good pollen, man.
Excellent. I mean, and that therefore, that's a word of caution. Word to the wise is if you're doing it, remember it gets everywhere. It's small. It'll get around, and yeah,
Lighter than air. Lighter than air, people.
got to think twice about what you're going to do with it.
Yeah, this isn't the first time I've done it, so I kind of knew I was gonna get hit pretty good. It is what it is, it's all for me anyway, so I don't really care. It's just a little bit more work when I go to use it.
Just a little bit more. Although Cascadian might have a solution for you from his being advertised there on Instagram, the seed shucker.
Oh, I've already hit up Cascadian about the seed shucker. I saw that thing and I'm like, oh shit, is that a seed shucker?
I'm gonna need one.
About a month, man.
I should have the prototype done today, so watch for the
Demo.
videos tomorrow, probably.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. Hope it goes better than you expect.
The seeds.
I'm pleasantly pleased so far, Jim. I'm actually really happy with a lot of the choices. So it's been a lot of fun.
So yeah, the other option is just to wash it all. When you realize you've got 10 jars full to the brim of seeds, but then of course that bit that starts to kick in is, am I going to be throwing out the one by mistake? Suddenly, like, it's, oh shit, I'm doing this for a breeding project. I've got to pop them all. It's not like buying a packet of 10 and going, oh, one of them got crushed. So what? Suddenly, because you're actually looking for stuff now very specifically. It's like, you've got to be careful.
What I should do is I should hit up Jeff and be like, hey, dude, I got a whole bunch of shit. You want any of it?
I've got everything by a rise. What would you like?
It's the new NL5, man. New NL5.
Basil by rise, coriander by rise, parsley by rise.
I got what you need.
Yeah, so has anybody else in chat got any other questions on genetic drift or anything else to do with population genetics on that front, actually? Fire away if you do. And Raptor, how's your Scarlet Begonias?
Oh, it's doing great. I'm actually into week 8 and probably dipping. Yeah, I think we're dipping into week 9.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
the smaller pheno, it should have just like a couple more days. It's all cloudy. I see a little bit of amber, but this one is like right by the wall, so I'm kind of excluding that side and just kind of trying to focus on the other side, which it's its own little challenge to like reach in the corner and like hold something to like and the camera. But yeah, I actually got guess I'll show this. I'm returning this one, but I actually have the new one. And this is just a little clip-on lens.
Okay,
And
yeah,
it
yeah.
came with 3 lenses, a macro, a wide, and a fisheye. I only need the macro. And yeah, it worked great, but the reason I'm returning this one, I'm getting a new one, is because it came with scratched lens. So be aware. I just spent like $6 on it, so you don't have
Yeah,
to
they
spend
cost
that
nothing.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was like, okay, whatever. Try it out, and at very least I'll have a lens to work with for anything. And yeah, that's basically what I'm going to be using to scope everything out, and I'm just going to be taking pictures along with it. It's pretty challenging to hold everything still, but I am able to get an up close look at everything. So it was really nice. And it's also going to be used more for like IPM checks, checking in on things, making sure I can identify which bugs are where and why they're there. So that's another like bonus of why I got it. And just overall watching the stages as it goes from its beginning to its end stages of trichome development. So yeah,
I've
that's
seen this little camera kicking around. It seems to be getting a lot of publicity on it. Is the Insta360, I think it's called. This tiny little, it only weighs 30 grams, really small little thing, and it maintains an artificial horizon. So no matter which way you turn the camera, the picture's always horizontal. Doesn't flip the picture over.
Right way up.
Yeah, right way up. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, it also it's got like I think it's infinite focus, but it seems to do pretty well close up as well. And because of that, it's linked to your phone, so you can then just hold it in there, or even just clip it to the side of onto a pole or something. It's got a magnet in it, and you can just clip it onto things.
nice. I
That
really
makes it more interesting.
also want to get like
They're welcome to sponsor
pole.
the show.
Yeah, right.
We need 10.
Yeah, this is the only reason I would want a selfie stick, is just to literally take pictures on the other side of the tent. And
More
it's like,
comfortable.
okay, yeah, and you could actually hold it there. So yeah, there's a lot of benefits to that. I already have one, but it's more of like have it in place on my desk kind of a thing. And I can't necessarily have that set up in my tent. So I needed something that I could have mobile. I also am going to use this for IPM checks in my backyard and front yard. Like we were mentioning before, Pete, about focusing on if you have the ability to have a garden or already have a garden in your front or backyard, use that as your first barrier of IPM. So that's where all of your beneficials are going to be. So if something flies along, we're like, oh, okay, we'll go there, land there first, and then go up to the place where all the good stuff is. They're going to be taken down, hopefully. Again, first line of defense. The next one should be cleanliness, and then you have your beneficial insects inside your tent as like the full-on guards. You got to have multiple barriers if you can. So yeah, just little things like that. Oh, and in terms of how everything else, the bigger one is finishing up, it really might need I was actually talking with Shipwreck, and we're like, maybe it might even go all the way to 12 like that. It seemed to have this is an old school way of thinking of it, but like it finished up early and was small and squat like a indica, the first the smaller pheno, and then the bigger one seems to be, it's much bigger. It's taking up most of the tent, and it's developing at a much slower pace, but it's definitely getting looks almost greasier, while the indica the squatter one looked more crystal, like it more densely covered in crystals, but it could be the same amount of trichomes, I should say, on both, but they're just more spread out depending on the growth itself. So yeah, it's nice. I like them both. The smaller pheno it's finishing off with a champagne scent, like a strong champagne scent. So like the caramel kind of subsided, but the green apple is still there. So you get a little bit of the green apple, and then it almost tingles your nose like a champagne would, even. Like it's so interesting. So it'd be cool to take that and put it into try to combine the two phenos, if I can, and use both of those traits from the phenos, I should say, and make the squattier one a little more higher yielding, but still keep the tones of smells. And I don't even know how it's going to taste yet, but that won't, it all, I'll let you all know once it's fired up in the bowl. That's like the final test. We can say all we want and like, oh, the stem rub here, this or that along, but in the end, we're all, thank you, Gina. Genotypes, not phenotypes. So yeah, that was express genotypically. But yeah, once it's all done, I'll have it all figured out. So shouldn't be too long from there. Let's see if the bigger pheno goes all the way, like up to week 12, just 3 more weeks. But I don't know. I might cut it in a week. We'll see how developed it is. It's still packing on weight, like plenty of weight. Yeah, it should be interesting.
I'm trying to follow up on what Magma is saying in chat there concerning like the S1s and consider them as F2s.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I can see why it would look a little bit like, because the same as when you take the F1 generation and cross it, you get this maximum sudden like variety that pops up in the F2 generation, in the inbreeding line that you're working with. So if you cross the plant with itself, you will see you're likely to kick out all of the recessive traits in the next generation that may not being expressed, but it's going to be like, yeah. So therefore, the population that comes from the S1 looks a little bit more like an F2 population-wise.
It's more diverse.
Yeah.
A lot of
An
stuff.
R1 would look more like the F1 because an R1 is a female plant that's been pollinated with another female that has been forced to produce pollen. S1 means that plant was pollinated with its own pollen. And then that's where it'll get a little bit more, that's where it'll get a little different on that side.
Yeah, I won't be able to see any progress till like the 3rd generation about, when I'm really able to like isolate all the traits that I'm looking for. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting journey, but I do like all throughout the growing experience, I've enjoyed all the expressions. Like all the scents have been green apples. A tart green apple is one of my favorite candy flavors scents. So that was really cool to have it for the first time in my cannabis. So yeah, super interesting. Especially since there was a caramel green apple scent coming off of there. That was just enjoyable to grow. To just like go up to my tent like,
Nice.
Yeah, just little things like that. But yeah, that's basically my update. I'm still waiting on my tents to come in. I'll be calling the place. It's Saturday, so it's a holiday and stuff. So we'll see. I'll see how it I'll call in on Monday, and hopefully won't be much of an issue. But yeah, that's basically the update here. And I will be popping for the next run blue raspberry truffle from Irie Genetics and Lemon Hoko's blueberry work. So yeah, lots of blueberry going, or lots of berries going in the tent. And then might sneak in some some of another friend's Jaro work. So that one will be fun. Really looking forward to that. But I have people that I had breeders give me genetics, so I want to work on those genetics first, and then hopefully I can sneak in one a little faster, especially since I will have new tents going in.
And
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
Nice,
keep,
nice, nice.
getting all these killer mean gene crosses. What's going on with that?
Oh, I might know a guy.
How's the root beer ones coming along there, Cascadian?
He
Oh,
is
they're
so
doing-
stoned.
So one of the things that Jackson has said about root beer as to why it's not out there in the world is that it is slightly unstable indoors, and I'm currently going through a little bit of that, picking out females now that are showing small amounts of male flowers to see who's left. So it's moving
Is it
slow,
only
but
doing it indoors
yeah,
though?
man.
Does it perform
Yeah.
fine outdoor?
Yeah, it's fine outdoors.
I have a greenhouse.
Greenhouse is the thing.
No,
He's
it's
not biting,
interesting
Lefty. He's
that-
not biting. You're gonna have to dress that fly slightly differently. And
Doesn't
try
change
it.
at all in the face. This is stone cold when he talks about the root beer. He's just like,
So, what trait is it in the root beer that you're after? I mean, what is it about the root beer that you particularly like, particularly want? Is it where I'm leading to? Is it therefore possible to say, okay, I'll take one of these that's showing male flowers early, but I'm going to cross it with something else that I know is stable, and try and lock in all of those other root beer traits, except for this tendency to produce female
Well,
pollen early.
He blessed me with enough seeds that I should be able to find enough individuals that are stable that I can actually ditch all of the unstable ones. So the idea for me is to take this a couple generations by doing that, by throwing out any instability, keeping the stable, and then send it back to him. 3 to 5 generations of indoor stability, and then send it back to him. It's kind of just like on loan in my mind. It's not my work, it's not my line, it's not mine to give out, it's not mine to. I've been told I can do personal projects with it, so I'm going to. But the larger goal, the reason I feel like it was delivered to me, was to put my energy and intention into it to breed out some of that indoor inbreed intersex, and then send it back to him. So that's really why it's here. That's really what I'm doing. I'm really just trying to do him a favor and see if it works. I just happen to be blessed enough to make something with it while it's here, but it's really just here for a minute to give back.
Yeah, cool.
And a strain sit in.
Yeah, he grows outdoors. He grows in Cali. I grow in really wet Pacific Northwest indoors. So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna put a little bit of this selection pressure on the line and send it back to him and see what he says.
Yeah.
I haven't got to try it yet, so I don't know all of the questions we all really want the answers to. I don't know if it tastes or smells like root beer. I don't know if it hits like a train wreck. I don't know any of that yet. I do know that I have one like bucket list project I'm really looking forward to doing with the root beer, and that is working it into pre-98 Bubba Kush. Pre-98 Bubba Kush is very earthy, soily, chocolate, caramel, coffee, and I want to bring, so the root beer is said to have that sarsaparilla with some licorice and some of those earth tones, and pre-98 is really earthy. But if you know about pre-98, you know it grows really slow, And what I find really interesting about root beer is it shoots through the roof. So I'm really hoping to take that same earthy profile, but take the vigor and put it in the Pre-98 to come out with something that is still very much earthy medicine, but is not such a pain in the ass to grow.
Mm.
So I'm trying to like really improve them both. I'm trying to improve the root beer just by itself, and I'm trying to use that improved root beer to improve Pre-98. I'll probably, now the root beer is a back cross 3, and I'll probably use root beer back cross 3 to make a Pre-98 Bubba back cross 3. It'll probably be the male donor to do that, to hold that vigor, but still push it back over to Pre-98 and maintain the vigor. So that's really the only like fingers crossed goal I have for it. Everything else is just kind of playing around and having fun with it while it's here. But that's the one thing that I would like to quote unquote leave behind is that Pre-98 work.
The root beer is what? It's like a Hindu something female back to the Hindu male.
So root beer is, hang on, I actually got a graphic I can.
I just listened to his podcast the other day and listened to all this stuff, and it was like a Hindu something female by, I think, a Hindu male. I don't remember.
I usually know this. Why don't I know this today?
I know I had a bunch of Hindu Kush in it. That's all I remember.
Yeah, I posted it on his feed here real quick. Let me scroll back. Root beer is Hollywood Pure Kush. No, it's Headband crossed to Hollywood Pure Kush that was pollinated by a Hindu Black Affy combo.
That's what it was.
So it's Hindu and Black Affy were crossed together. Pollen from that went on to Hollywood Pure Kush. You had a 3-way cross there.
Right.
That 3-way cross then pollinated Headband, and you got root beer. If you take that same 3-way cross and put it on Sour Diesel, you get the Jarro. So that's the only difference between Jarro and root beer is Headband and Sour Diesel.
There's so many different things.
And was it the Headband or the Sour Diesel that came from Mandelbrot? Because I thought one of those came from Mandelbrot. It's so interesting when you start digging into all this shit. It's like, what the hell?
I think it was the Headband.
Yeah.
And then Mandelbrot also still has he's the one responsible for the true SFBOG. And the Royal Kush, that Royal Kush number 7 mother that Nick Risden swears by. Risden, sorry. He swears by that Royal Kush number 7. Those 3 plants I know all came from Mandelbrot.
Yeah.
He's still very much a presence in our community. It's so cool. So yeah, that's my goals with the root beer. It's the Pre-98 improvement. That's my holy grail. You know, that's my best medicine. That's what works for me is those earthy terps, the chocolates and the coffees. The coffee really just lights my fire. So
Nice. I haven't had anything that other than coffee that tastes like coffee, to be honest. I can feel a trip to the Northwest coming up.
I have a Panama Red by Bubba Kush going that has Panama Red growth characteristics, but it smells just like a coffee. Yeah, it smells just like coffee.
Black, like black coffee, not sweet coffee. Black, dark coffee.
It smells like almost like a cup of coffee. Yeah, like a bag of coffee. Almost. It's crazy.
Ooh, that'd be nice. That'd be very nice.
Max with the
That
E on the end in chat a little while ago was asking about twin seeds. And there's 2 types of twin seeds. There's a twin seed that you pop 1 seed and get 2 plants. And there's a twin seed where there's 2 seeds fused together. Max was referring to the put one seed in the ground, get two plants.
Mhm.
That is referred to as polyembryonic. And then, yeah, they went so far as to mention polyembryonic mangoes, which is a really common thing to happen in mangoes. So it's all over the internet. If you search polyembryonic, you'll get polyembryonic mangoes, like 8 out of 10 of your results. But it's also very frequent in cannabis. When you put one seed in the ground, you get two plants. Word on the street is one of those plants will be an identical clone to the mother. The other one will be a genetic mix-up of an actual breeding pair. The issue I'm running into is I need to find that documentation from a scientific source. I haven't done that yet. If anybody's watching this happens to come across a white paper, research paper that details how polyembryonic seeds pop up, I understand so far that it's a mutation, but I also have a bookshelf I need to dig through to understand this a little bit better, because it's something I've wondered about for a little while. And I'm understanding it's a mutation. It's rather common. But again, I need to look into this.
Is it that one is going to be an identical clone of the mother in particular, or of one of the parents?
So the concept is that the seed capsule, the seed was pollinated with one pollen grain.
Right.
And that one pollen grain cannot split itself, so it goes into one of the two twins that comes out of the seed.
Right.
And the only other place for the other one to come is from mom. So they say that it's a genetic clone of mom. But I need to find scientific backing.
Hard evidence, yeah.
Where it's been analyzed in anything. It doesn't have to be cannabis. Just in anything, I need to actually see the proof that the seedling matched the mom and this other seedling was different. Like, I haven't seen that yet. So as with Max, I'm a little hesitant to say that is how it works, but that is my understanding for now. I will report back to you when I can find more proof one way or another.
Yeah, it might actually be a good one for next week. Hopefully still on is
We mean hopefully still on.
I never know, man. Until it happens, it hasn't happened.
How many liters of
Embargo University, it could be a good question from him, because he's got a lot of those white paper, well, at least his access to a lot of the white papers from the academic perspective, and he might be able to find that fairly quickly. It could be an interesting one, and ask him about that. Say it's come up.
What's his name
see
again?
if he can find anything. What's it? Embargo University.
I have access to a bunch of those too from my schooling. I just haven't.
Embargo. Yeah.
I just popped in.
I was just about to say
now,
Tobacco,
so I haven't had the time to even look yet. But I will be looking into it.
Mm.
But that'd be awesome to get more eyes. That's why I'm asking. That's why I'm bringing it up. Get more eyes looking for the right answer here, and then we can all share the right answer. So.
Yeah. Because then the trick is, how do you know which one?
Right. Well, yeah,
because you have to make a decision. I mean, how do they actually grow? Especially if you're doing it. I mean, you don't grow both of them. You're going to have to. I mean, do. Yeah. So, but separating them out early enough, I guess, is the trick. So yes, maybe you can, and maybe the reality of it is most people end up killing one of them in the process of trying to separate it, because
I always have. Well, I've always let them grow and then just took the most vigorous one. I've seen them multiple times, and I let them get, second set of leaves maybe. Second set of leaves might just be a little growing tip, like they're getting ready to come out, and I'll make a decision.
Yeah.
I've probably done that 5, 6, 7 times in the last decade. So.
What would happen if you were to just leave it be? One will always be dominant, and it'll be a lopsided.
So if you left them together, their roots are going to bind each other, One might
Group round
strangle
itself.
the other one out. Yeah, you
Mm.
might end up with two seeds that both have reduced vigor because they just can't get away from each other. But if you separate them out early enough, they should grow as two completely different plants. Just label them A and B and don't friggin' mix it up so you can tell which one was the mom clone and which one was new.
Yeah, because that's kind of, if one of them is slightly more vigorous than the other and gets a head start, there's every
So-
chance it just strangles the other one out. That's and it isn't that gentle art of separating them.
Yeah.
I've separated it from its roots. All right.
Looks like we're down to one. And they call that natural selection, not genetic.
Exactly. Well, that brings us up to the hour. And actually, hang on, Duckweed. We haven't had an update from you or from Genetic Memory Farms actually on how your little grows and projects are coming along. How they doing? How's yours
Oh
coming along, there,
damn!
Duckweed?
You know that class when you didn't do the homework and you're like, oh fuck!
So close. So
Yeah,
close.
class is almost
Almost
done.
made the bell.
Almost done.
Heading out the door. Oh, Duck.
Oh wait
got-
a minute.
Mr. Weed, before you leave.
Do we have your homework from when you were sick?
Oh damn! I
Oh,
thought I got away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, after
now, my
that.
projects are going.
Oh yeah, you go ahead, Jim. If
Oh,
you
go ahead,
talk, brother,
Peter.
you talk. I'll slip away.
Go for it, bro. You've been sick, man. Always defer.
Oh man. Yeah. So after what happened with the local sativa and the autoflower where I found the male, which I decided that it was unwanted pollination because it was outdoors and because I knew that there was so much males around in the area. I decided to cross two other strains, which were a TKM10 onto a Platinum Pi. I took that and then I tried to cross it to Slurricane onto GMO Mac. But those Slurricane beans, they don't seem to be doing too well out here. I believe it's probably my conditions, especially temperature, because they were from a Canadian breeder. And I want to believe that when you breed in a certain environment, the strain adapts to that environment. So now me taking it out of that environment, it's like, what the fuck is going on here? So I did manage to pull a small cross off where I got about 3 seeds MC and forming. But I still have a couple beans left. What I would do is I would try to pop them in a different environment using air condition and stuff and bring the temperatures down and see if they do better like that. So that way I'll know, okay, well, it's definitely the environment that's doing it and not anything else. So yeah, that's about it really. It's a slow, long, boring process right now. Not much going on, just looking at them, seeing some forming, squishing them every now and then, just kind of getting a sense of the terpenes and stuff, So yeah, hopefully that how I put that Charisma TKM10 onto it, which is doing a lot better out here for me. Hopefully it'll bring across some of that vigor to that GMO stuff, GMO Mac, which seems to be pretty finicky. I don't know if it's those strains in general are just finicky, or if it's just that cross and the environment, like I said. So yeah, it's definitely a process.
Nice, yeah, it is. It's as you say, at times it's a bit like watching paint dry as well.
Yeah.
It's like a bit with the expectations. And GMF, how about yours, sir? How yours get apart from the ones that didn't make it due to dog sitting?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I was traveling back and forth I wasn't home for about a week, so I lost a couple of seedlings, but I don't give a shit. It's just sort of nature. That would have happened anyway in nature. So, like Cascadian says, it's just part of the game. So, Yeah, right now I'm just popping some Pakistani Chitral Kush by Golden Goat. I've had them for a little over a decade. They've just been kind of sitting in the vault. So I've got some of them popped. I did pop just as the Subcool tribute. I have one Sangria going. And just for kicks, I'm thinking about maybe hitting it with my deep chunk male that I like just to see what comes out of it. I got one tester too coming up now because I've been doing green projects over the years. I've now got one of my PCK by Super Dog by Deep Chunk. I decided to run one of those just to see how deep chunky it'll look, just to see how dominant deep chunk is going to be in a lot of these different genetics. That's about it though. That's about all it's, that's about all I've been up to right now. After the Pakistani Chitral by Golden Goat, next up in the plan that I've gotten written out would be Pakistani Chitral Kush by the Cough. So that's another one that's about 10 years old.
Cool. Nice. But at least they're all coming along, which is good to see. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Also, too, Duckweed, didn't you get to try out some stuff you were working on? Like you said you were got a little sample on a J. You got to roll up a little something. How was that? Was it I think it was yesterday. You said you were like, oh yeah, it was an auto, something you were working on with the auto. You said
yeah, that's the same. Is it the same local sativa that I crossed to the autoflower?
Oh, okay.
It's probably that because that's what I've been smoking for the past since I've been a little bit sick. I've been smoking.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I forget that you have a clog nose. I was wondering if there was anything like different in flavor and something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess we'll figure that out.
Are you talking about why I said I had something to sample that I didn't want to smoke just yet because my taste buds and stuff wasn't really.
No, it's that autocross you were working on and you were puffing on that. But yeah, no worries.
I actually kind of jumped. Yeah, I did jump the gun on it though. Like I jarred it up and dipped my hand in the day after.
yeah. No, I was just wondering if who cares if that, like, people are you grew it, do whatever the fuck you want with it. But yeah, I was just wondering if you got any different flavor from it, or if you just wondering how it came out.
Yeah. Well, one was definitely, like I was saying earlier, the fermented overripe fruit, kind of gassy tennis ball. The other one is very similar but not as strong, a little more faint, but has a more coffee back end. And like as Kato was saying, not as sweet, but like the black coffee kind of back end. Yeah. Like I would smell it and remember my granny boiling coffee in a fucking pot how many years ago.
Or at least what you thought was coffee. You've just suddenly come to realize, hey, hang on. Hey, your coffee smells very different to mine.
For sure.
No, so cool.
I didn't catch it. I just wanted to, it was something I wanted to ask you actually when we were talking earlier, but you know how the room goes.
Yeah.
One topic to another.
Hands it swings.
So on that note, where can everybody find you, Raptor, as we jump in?
Oh yeah,
you can find me. Join us in the after show. Sorry.
Sure. No worries. We're all saying our goodbyes. Yeah, you can find me on the after show here on Operation Grow on Saturdays. When we just normally hang out. 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, West Coast time. You could also find me at Raptor Grow. This is spelled improperly. It should be all lowercase and all one word. So look for that on Instagram and you should find me. Sometimes I'm hanging out in other places on lives or otherwise lurking in the chat. So yeah. Hopefully you will all be interested in what's coming up. Got some gardening stuff gardening content I'm going to be covering for outside gardening, and yeah, it'll be really cool. I'm starting to sow melons because I can in California. So that'll be cool. Yeah, hell yeah.
Exactly.
It'll be a good one. So hope you all can join me, and yeah, we'll have some fun together in the garden.
Nice. And GMF, where can we find you, sir?
You usually find me here every Saturday hanging out with fine folks. Or I've been trying to sleep a human schedule, so I've been missing Fumi's show, but I'll try to show up there tonight if I can be awake. So Fumador and the Flavor, shout out to him. You can also catch me every once in a while hanging out over at Grow Room 420. Shout out to our friends over there, GMO and Kino. Usually hanging out there in the little chat room, just saying hi to everybody. I don't really know how to post on forums, so I just say hi and chat. But yeah, you can usually catch me hanging out in one of those 3 places. Or I would say most definitely, if I can be helpful to anyone, hit me up on IG. My Instagram is just Genetic Memory Farms. Doesn't matter if you need help with weed or bugs or specifically microbes. If you want to make some food products with fermentations, if you want to make some booze, if you want to make some whatever, hey, give me a holler. I'm happy to help. I love doing that kind of stuff. So lately I've been helping a few people learn kombucha and stuff like that. So anything I can do to be helpful, y'all, just give me a holler.
Will do. Excellent. Thanks for that. And Duckweed, where can we find you, sir?
You can find me here on the Operation Grow, and trying to make it a habit to hang out with those guys from GR420 on a Friday. It's a crazy fucking sesh usually. It's fun. Yeah, that's about it. I'm usually hanging in the hood, as it's called. The Discord link, where you can probably keep up with the activities that all of us are usually doing, including the Operation Grow, and Cascadian and everyone else. So yeah, I'm always around in chat. You probably find me at NutsandGuts868 on Instagram if you figure it out. Yeah.
Good man. And Lefty, to you.
Yeah, man. Lefty's Farm on IG and Cannabis, and I'm always around on Saturdays on Operation Grow Show.
And if anybody wants something crossed with a rise, apparently you're the man to go to, yeah?
I'm going to be competing with Jeff after this round.
Lefty's Seed Co.
And yourself, Cascadian, thank you once again for taking part in the show, for the presentation. Always a wealth of knowledge and really interesting and great to have you on. Where can everybody find you if they'd like to hit you up with any questions or know more about yourself?
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to come on and do these little teaching moments. If you're looking for me, Cascading Grow on Instagram is probably the best place to find me. I'm kind of all over the place everywhere else right now, so let's just stick with that one. I'll see you guys next week. I know for sure I'll probably be back. We'll see about another presentation or whatever's going on. But
yeah,
you'll catch me here, and if you need me, get me there. Cascading Grown on Instagram.
Excellent. And absolute pleasure. And you can find me at Operation Grow 2019 on Instagram, as well as at Peel Grow Systems. And yeah, if you want to buy a Minder unit for your monitoring your environment, use the coupon code OG Show. You'll get 10% at checkout. So thank you everybody in chat once again for taking part. It's really great. Makes the show, and you are more than welcome to join us in the after show. He has the link one more time. It's not live, so where talk gets real. Anyway, stay safe, everybody, and we'll see you all